This is the strategy inside everything. I'm Adam Pierno. The strategy inside everything is the podcast for people who think for a living. All right, welcome back to another episode of the strategy inside everything. We are going to talk about memes, and I couldn't think of a better person than the general manager and editor-in-chief of Know Your Meme, a part of Literally Media, Don Caldwell. Don, thank you for making time.
Thanks for having me on. Honored.
It is really nice to speak with you again. I think we talked maybe about a year ago. We were working on something together. I don't even remember exactly what, but seeing how Know Your Meme has grown, and as you know, I'm a daily reader. I read the entries, which is a little bit weird, I guess. Do you know if a lot of people follow the site and the updates and through an RSS like I do?
I'm sure a lot of people do. We have a lot of just, regular visitors coming to the site. I think last, time I checked on certain metrics, we were within the top 300 websites in the United States, according to some services. But yeah, there's a lot of visitors. I'm sure a lot of people have subscribed to the RSS for the homepage.
Oh man, I just consume it, tap it right into my veins. How do you get to the role of being the editor-in-chief and general manager at Know Your Meme? What's your career path to get there?
Yeah. I've been at the website working on Know Your Meme for over 12 and a half years now.
Okay.
Something like that. I actually first started as an intern, and I was, working on the website and working on episodes for the video series part-time. I was also working at Vice part-time back in 2010. And I had, just left a job. Actually, I was working at a promotional merchandise company, at a marketing company. I hated it. I absolutely hated the job. And I went and was, just basically quit my job and chased my dream, took a pay cut, the whole kind of.
Just much more passionate about this.
Yeah, it was it was a calling that I just said, screw it. I'm going to make this work. I even hunted down, Know Your Meme was about, I think the website itself was about a year old. The Know Your Meme brand was originally launched in at the end of 2007 as a web series on YouTube under the company Rocket Boom.
Right.
And, the website was launched about a year later at the end of 2008, December 2008, early 2009, got its start. And, I came on in 2010, and I had hunted down the people that were working on Know Your Meme. I met them at RaffleCon, which was this
Holy
internet
moly.
culture
Yeah.
conference. It was awesome. It was absolutely amazing. RaffleCon is just legendary. People talk about it. Like anybody I know who used to go, we always reminisce about how cool RaffleCon was and how much we wish it still existed.
You could bring it back, Don.
What's that?
You could bring it back.
Yeah, that I think that I would love for that to be on the horizon. Definitely have been talking about bringing some kind of internet culture conference back. The kind of place where you'd be walking in the hallway and you'd see Dave After Dentist Kid, selling T-shirts of himself, or Antoine Dodson, walking down the hallway. It was wild. That was the 2012 RaffleCon. I met Antoine Dodson, but yeah, I hugged the people down there, and I pretty much demanded to be a part of the project.
Was it, you said you were working at Vice as well. So was it the journalistic aspect of it and a passion for understanding internet culture, or was it just an obsession with memes, or what was it about Know Your Memes or memes in general? What were you trying to get to at that stage?
Yeah, actually, my academic background's in anthropology, and specifically, I was really actually had a big focus on evolutionary anthropology, human evolution, human culture.
That makes a lot of sense.
Cultural evolution as well, gene culture coevolution. These are the type of things that I was always interested in. The Selfish Gene was one of my favorite books. I read it when I was 18, before I even started college, when I was a very confused teenager, not sure what I wanted to do. And the concept of a meme blew my mind when I read that when I was 18. It was before the word meme was even being used in the context of internet memes.
Yeah, and it's like a throwaway word in that book. I mean, he threads the book with it, but it's sort of that's not really what the book is. But yeah, that's the idea that sunk into regular popular culture.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the book's about, natural selection, how it operates on the gene level, and then, kind of to illustrate that concept, he goes into this, territory of universal Darwinism, and where it coins the term meme as
Yeah.
a cultural analog to a gene, and yeah, it was kind of out of left field, and like I remember clearly when I was 18 reading this book, just having my brain explode out the back of my skull, like this book was like a shotgun to my head. And so yeah, I mean, this is something that I've always nerded out on, is like, viral culture on a very like, nerdy level. And yeah, so that's essentially what attracted me to internet memes and meme culture, and know your meme
Well,
specific.
you're the person I wanted to talk to about how memes have changed and how they continue to change. And I think the background you just gave us, being there in 2007, 2008, not much has changed in internet culture. It's pretty much static. Doesn't evolve very quickly at all.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. No, I think it's super interesting to look back at these different. I think of them as kind of like eras in internet culture, like, or like
Yes, epochs.
epochs. Yeah, yeah, we're on the same page. Um, yeah, and just first of all, too, I think it's important to like kind of nail down exactly what we're talking about here. I think I found the word meme has many different kind of colloquial definitions, and
Totally.
the term itself has had its own interesting evolutionary history. But with I think an important way I like to think about them, and the way we kind of trim and know your meme, that memes are essentially a type of cultural information. Um, we typically look at them as the more viral and highly replicable
Mhm.
cultural information. And more specifically with internet memes, it's, culture that spreads online. So, and the progress of technology has been super important in the evolution of memes. So kind of like to start even, I even like to go back really far to some of like the early internet, right? Um, so going back to like, Usenet, right?
Mhm.
Usenet gonna start in 1980, and then, even before the World Wide Web even existed. And it, was this kind of discussion system, where people would, have essentially kind of like message boards type of thing. And a really early meme that came out of Usenet was Godwin's law. And Godwin's law is still used to today. That this kind of internet axiom or adage, and it states that the longer a conversation on the internet goes on for, the probability that a reference to Nazis or Adolf Hitler approaches one. So it becomes inevitable, essentially,
Yeah, any thread is
that
gonna devolve into that at some point.
anything that will occur. Um, and so, this is during this era, text-based memes were the ones that were able to thrive, because that was, on a place like Usenet, that's what could exist there.
Yeah,
That was the
low
limitation.
bit rate, low latency.
Right, as the limitations of the technology.
Mhm.
And then you fast forward a few years, like the mid '90s, and Dancing Baby is often cited as the first internet meme by people. I would argue that Usenet memes would predate that. Cite Godwin's law as
I
an
think
example,
that's
but
yeah, I think that's fair. But you already raised the issue that people define meme based on their own kind of bias or experience,
that's
and
right.
Dancing Baby is the first visual or, like, video meme that I can remember, even though you're right, Godwin's Law is a great example of something that predates it.
That's right. Yeah, I think there's often a association with remixable media
Yeah.
with the term meme that people latch onto.
Mhm.
And, some people get really stubborn about it and are like, no, the only memes are media that's able to be reproduced and remixed in different ways and highly adaptable in that regard. But I think that's kind of fallen out of favor in recent times. I think people have come along to, slang terms being memes, like the word simp, or like, there's Zoomer slang that has like such a, especially nowadays, that, slang and the internet are so intimately entwined. It often, seems to be born on social media. that people say, okay, yeah, no, slang or internet internet slang is a meme.
It has to be. I mean, when you see dictionaries citing, like, the "ussy" suffix as the word of the year, I mean, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that. Um,
Yeah,
that is squarely in meme territory,
for
but
sure.
it hit culture in a way that people that I wouldn't consider part of internet culture recognizing and saying like, "Okay, this is having some sort of impact." And that keep the borders keep changing for everybody as well.
Yeah, for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, just to go back to the '90s, I think like this is what that period though, with Dancing Baby, I think does mark this iconic milestone of when, like you said, visual media becomes super mimetic on the internet. Um, and you so Dancing Baby, for those who don't know, 3D animation of a baby wearing a diaper
It's
dancing.
just as dumb as it sounds, yeah.
It's yeah, that's it. Uh, and yeah, a big it's also neat. We discovered, gosh, several years ago now. Gosh, I think it was quite a few years ago now. We made this discovery, but that a key part of the Dancing Babies spread online had to do with this really rudimentary homepage created by the former Nine Inch Nails art director, Rob Sheridan.
Oh,
He's kind
really?
of a figure on Twitter. He's got like a big Twitter following. But yeah, he made this homepage. It was like, the GeoCities kind of homepages is what people kind of associate this with. Very simplistic, basic HTML, early web homepages that, you'd see the under construction GIF and stuff like that on
A lot
almost
of iframes, yeah.
a lot of yeah. This was this was a big part of the Dancing Baby spread there. So this is like, when one of the early examples of the World Wide Web becoming significant, an early milestone and remixable media entering the meme space. And so it's a very, very iconic moment there. And, this kind of period from like, the mid to late '90s to early aughts was a very, dominated by the early web.
Yeah.
And um then I think that we entered a new era in the early aughts with this website YTMND. I think like, a lot of people these days also don't even know how important YTMND was. But in the meme world, YTMND was extremely important. Before YouTube existed, YTMND was the place that memes incorporating animated imagery and sounds existed
Go
and
on and
thrived.
talk a little bit more about that site.
Yeah, so YTMD, it's an acronym for or initialism for "You're the Man Now, Dog." So it's based off this Finding Forrester scene. Finding Forrester is a movie with Sean Connery,
I was
and he's
just gonna
talking. Yeah,
say, you can't just say for Finding Forrester because You're the Man Now Dog has totally outlived the script from which it was born.
yeah, yeah. It was based on the first page I think was it was a picture of Sean Connery from this film
You're the
where he's
Man
like,
Now Dog.
yeah, you're the man now, dog. Like very iconic Sean Connery line. And that spawned this site that was created by Max Goldberg, who yeah, I know Max personally. He's a great guy. I actually attended RaffleCon, went to RaffleCon with him one year.
Nice.
We trained together from New York. Went to Burning Man with him one year too, actually. Dragged him to Burning Man. He hated it.
Not
Yes,
his
absolutely. He
not
hated
his
it.
scene.
It wasn't his scene.
Got it.
Um, and yeah, Max created this site, You're the Man Now Dog, YTMD. And what users could upload images or animated GIFs, so still images or animated GIFs
Yeah.
and sound files, and they would, loop, and then there could also be like text over it as well. And yeah, it was absolutely huge. There's a number of iconic memes that came out of this period and this era, and this is a time, and I think it's really notable because we see a lot of the kind of things that arose on YTMND happen again now on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like certain sounds becoming symbolic and iconic to a certain meme format.
Yeah, or representative of a certain, like, subculture.
That's right. That's right. This happened on YTMND. There was an example of one was like an 8-bit version of this Beverly Hills Cop song. I can't remember the name of the song right now. It's on our website. that was associated with like, the meme was, X has one weakness. And they would always use this song. As soon as you opened up a YTMND page with this song, this kind of thing, you would hear the song and you knew that it was this type of meme that it was referencing.
Right.
That this is when, sounds and audio clips like this really became powerful internet meme symbols. Um, so yeah, super iconic site, super iconic era. And these early aughts too is when we had the so YTMND was 2001, and then fast forward a couple of years to 2003, and that's when I would mark that. Now this is debatable. Okay, I might
Okay,
be
let's hear
a
it.
hot take here, but I would. This is my hot take. 2003 was pretty much the milestone viral video year.
Okay.
2003 was the milestone viral video
And
year
how do
for
you
TikTok.
mark what do you use as your marker there?
My markers there are several things. Star Wars Kid,
Mhm.
which is this video that, I mean, gosh, pretty much like ruined this kid's high school experience. He filmed himself,
This poor kid.
yeah. He had like a stand, a microphone stand, and he's using it like a dual bladed lightsaber from Star Wars. And it was found, the footage was found, it was leaked onto the internet. It was Kazaa, was this peer-to-peer network during the time that it was leaked onto. Spread like wildfire. Fire. He, was humiliated as a Star Wars kid. There's been like, documentaries about this this video. Um, Really iconic viral video. The GI Joe PSAs are from this era too,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
eBaum's World actually under literally media was one of the key places that spread these GI Joe PSAs. They were basically um, videos that would take footage from the PSA sections of the GI Joe videos, there's a cartoon, and would dub over them with ridiculous voiceover. And by I think it was Fensler, was the name Fensler Films? Um, and they were hilarious, and they spread like crazy on places like eBaum's World. And then we had things like the Badger Badger video, which is animation of Badger that was like had that song Badger 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 Mushroom Mushroom. And then Numa Numa and like this is like an explosion of viral videos during this period. I'd say
And
like
do you attribute that to, in 2003 again, going it's kind of a bandwidth thing, like, all of a sudden, the ability to upload video and for video to be transmitted through file shares and,
right.
outside of just traditional websites where I don't have to have a website of my own. It wasn't quite I guess 2003 Friendster existed, and early iterations of social web, but
Can't believe I just heard the word Friendster.
hey, buddy, you just talked about Star
I was
Wars
I
Kid.
was on it too. I, like people will remember MySpace a lot of the time, but a
Yeah,
lot of people don't remember the predecessor Friendster.
yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, this coincides with video sharing becoming a possibility technologically. Like people were able to upload videos onto a place that other people could download them from. Like that
Yeah.
wasn't really very easy to do
And
before this
even
period.
the path you just talked about, we start with Usenet, it's text based, and then you talk about, you're the man now, and it's like, oh, now we can add an audio file to everything, or a
Right.
looping video, or GIF, or whatever. And I call it a GIF. God damn it, it's not a GIF.
Hey, I'm with you,
I
man.
know we're old.
Choir.
That's what we do. But it does kind of follow that path of the availability of tools to be able to paste and repeat and view or hear those types of files. Then video all of a sudden is like, oh yeah, the internet's just totally broken open. We can share
That's right.
like endless amounts of video.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. And this was even before YouTube. I mean, but it's leading up there.
Yeah.
And I think it's not even the golden age of viral video yet. It's just like the milestone kind of explosion year. And more, I've been thinking about these eras and epochs in internet culture. Like I like think about like actual real world biological counterparts like the Cambrian explosion, or like these eras of like mass extinctions and then explosions and diversity afterwards. I feel like this was definitely when the viral video Cambrian explosion happened.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, we have YouTube in 2005, and then in 2005 when YouTube hits, then it's all over for a while in terms like viral videos. This is, in my opinion, this is like 2005 to even like 2010. It's like this kind of even 2010 being kind of like a especially interesting year, but just being this like wildly interesting viral video period.
Totally.
Um, we have like, David After Dennis in 2009. We got Chocolate Rain in 2007, Techno Viking in 2006. Like these are all like, I like Turtles in 2007. Like, these are these iconic videos that are just like, if you think about this period, like they just immediately come to mind as like absolutely enormous viral videos.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that would like, that period was the viral video kind of golden age, maybe I'd say, or like early viral video
I
golden
mean,
age.
when you it's funny as you just ran through that list, I get a very strong sensory response to like Techno Viking or Tay Day or like I
Right.
can put myself back in the room that I was in when I first saw any of those. It's
Yeah,
That's pretty weird to be
it's weird, right?
to have an emotional response to the description of of a
Why?
video.
Yeah. I mean, they're just like these memes are powerful and they embed themselves and they're really good at embedding themselves in your memory so that talk about them and spread them. That's that's how they go viral. So yeah, it's not surprising that they just like are firmly cemented in your memory banks to where you can remember even seeing them for the first time.
And it also talks to, video YouTube particularly, and then other video formats. Just people's ability to experiment more versus be intentional. Like Chocolate Rain is very intentional thing, but like Techno Viking is just somebody captured that. Who knows how long before it got posted? I mean, I think I've
Yeah.
actually researched it on Know Your Meme, like how long that video had existed before it got posted and before it got like promulgated through culture. And it had been like a decade or something. But it was like sitting on someone's camcorder until all of a sudden there was like, oh, here's a place I can put it
I can put it.
and
Yeah.
people can react to it in a way or interact with it in a way and build on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, before that, what did you have? America's Funniest Home Videos you had to send it to and like hope it got put on the show, you know?
Yeah, but that was
So that
there's only one type of video that succeeds there, which is a dad getting hit in the nuts with something.
Yeah, the original fail blog or fail army or whatever, yeah, the original fail videos were America's Funniest Home Videos.
100%.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like, yeah, YouTube, like, came onto the scene and finally made we had seen some tastes of being able to upload videos to the internet before that with on places like eBaum's World and everything, but then YouTube came on the scene and it was real the barrier to entry for getting a video on the internet was just, dropped considerably.
Totally.
And it changed the face of the web. And that was dominant until about 2010. And, 2010, I feel like was another this kind of like early 2010s period was another like just iconic era. And I might be a little biased because, I joined Know Your Meme in 2010s. So
Okay, so that for
for
you, it's
me,
like, this is the best year.
right. For me, it was like it was just a very personally like life-changing year and the internet culture was a big part of it. So it's kind of maybe I'm a little bit biased in terms of it being cemented in my mind. But it was a time when places like 4chan were just huge, like super impactful.
And before they got so trolly that you couldn't go there.
Yeah, yeah, this was like, 4chan during this era, what didn't have the associations that came with it around, I guess 2015, 2016 was when it started to get more of a, negative connotation in mainstream media
Yeah.
and in certain boards, like a politics board specifically. And, it was during this time, people didn't talk about the politics board at all. They talked
Mm,
about the B board, the
mm.
random board, and that's where a lot of memes were born. And it was, the early, I'm not gonna say it on here, but the word S posting,
Yeah, you could say it, it's okay.
um, this is where a lot of memes were born. And Reddit was becoming this behemoth. And what happened here was there was image hosting technology became super accessible and super cheap. Um, Imager was launched in 2009, I believe. And so and then Imager and Reddit has started having this, I believe it was all organic from the user base, but started to have this intimate connection where people
Mhm.
would upload their images to Imager and then post them to Reddit. And image memes then had this huge boom. And I'd say like a couple of the most iconic examples would be Rage comics.
Yeah.
and advice animals. And like this like 2010 to 2013, 2012 period was just like, I feel like there was just nonstop rage comics and advice animals left and right. And yeah, viral videos were kind of maybe they were still happening and still there, but they weren't everything at this time. Like people were really into because they could participate easily
Yes.
in making these memes that, you know, yeah, there were meme generator sites that popped up where you could just, you know, they'd have the format for you ready to go. And if you had the joke or the caption ready, you could just get that impact file on the top and bottom text and then go share it on Reddit and
Yep.
then get a bunch of upvotes and get rewarded.
Yeah,
Get your
no barrier to entry at all.
yeah. So this technology really changed the meme landscape for a good period. Like when I think back on 2010 to 2012, 2013, I think Rage Comics and Advice Animals. And like I remember on Know Your Meme, waking up in the morning, finding out what I had to do and be like, okay, today's another advice animal. And then the users on Know Your Meme in the comments getting mad at me for documenting
More?
another one
Yeah.
as if I like them.
Is there what was the lifespan of something then? Because I part of what I'm wondering about in the as we talk about evolution of memes as a format,
Yeah.
I think YouTube videos had a reasonably long shelf life, and, like, if we compare me
Longevity. Yeah.
to TikTok videos today or TikTok content
Yes.
today, yeah, like, Chocolate Rain is still enduring. People still know what that is.
Yep.
Meanwhile, if my daughter shows me something on TikTok, in 2 weeks, she'll have forgotten it. It'll be
Right.
literally vanished.
Yeah.
What was the lifespan of an advice animal in, that 2012 to 2014 era?
So, I mean, we actually do see some similarities. There was a time. So, a lot of advice animals, the really big iconic ones, had a pretty long life cycle. They had some decent longevity. The Scumbag Steve, for example, is one of the most iconic ones. And yes, you would refer to Scumbag Steve as an advice animal, even though with the photograph of a human.
Yeah, same
Humans are animals.
Bad Luck Brian, same thing.
Yeah, Bad Luck Brian too. I mean, humans are animals. People would all be like, "Vice animal? It's a human." Like, yeah, humans are animals.
Yeah.
It's the same format. And yeah, so advice animals typically, and yeah, just to kind of define them a little bit, they typically have like some human or other animal, so it'd be in the middle of the meme format,
Yeah,
and there would be
portrait.
text on the top. What's that?
It'd be some kind of a portrait of the advice animal.
Right, right, right. And they would represent some kind of archetype or like, you know, a stock character. Scumbag Steve, for example, represented a scumbag that we've all met in our lives that would like, you know, steal your lighter or, you know, do something selfish or obnoxious. And people used it to joke about this kind of person,
Yeah.
right? That meme lived on for a very long time. It even spawned the scumbag hat memes where people would take that like so it was a picture of this guy, Blake Boston, standing in a hallway wearing this like, you know, sideways hat baseball cap.
Yeah.
And you know, the cap itself became the symbol of a scumbag.
Yeah.
And it would be photoshopped into other things. You'd have like scumbag earth and or like, you know, scumbag inanimate object, you know, insert inanimate object here. And they just put the hat on it, you
Yeah,
know?
the hat became the symbol and
That's
conveyed the
right.
context for it, which is
It
that's
became
amazing.
it's really interesting. And, you know, what we would refer to that as typically as an exploitable, right? Exploitable is a term we use for something that you can like, you know, cut out and Photoshop into different contexts or
Mhm.
that sort of thing. Um, so, yeah, I mean, it lived on for a very long time. There were advice animals that would pop up that would die very quickly because there were so many that were being born all the time that the volume, you know, the volume was higher. Now, yes, during this period of the internet compared to today, they lived a lot longer than a lot of the small memes that pop up today.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I think that that's a consequence of volume, right? Like I think like as the internet became more mainstream, as memes become more mainstream, the volume of them increased and the average longevity of them declined. So yeah, I mean, you would have these memes that would live and remain culturally relevant for a very long time in the earlier part of internet history. And then nowadays you'll have these, you know, trends and viral videos and viral, you know, whatever on TikTok, viral phenomenon on TikTok, just explode in popularity like you know, like some kind of brief virus and then just disappear. very quickly as well.
Can we talk about that concept of virality?
Sure.
Because some memes will burst on the scene and all of a sudden they'll be everywhere instantaneously, like they catch fire. That's, that's how people think of virality. But there's some things
Yeah.
that just have long lifespan and they simmer.
Yeah. I think they're often there's a relationship there, right?
Mhm.
So I think the way I kind of imagine it in my head is that like there is a finite amount of attention and oxygen, and you can use it up really quick and then die. Um, so let's have some examples. Bernie Sanders mittens, right? You remember the picture of Bernie Sanders with the mittens, and he's at the inauguration, and it was everywhere, like
Yeah.
literally everywhere for a week.
Yeah.
Then it, wa- and then on to the next, right? Then you
Yes.
take like Loss is a good one. Loss is this kind of 4-panel comic that was in this comic Control Alt Delete webcomic. Um, pretty dark subject matter about a miscarriage, but the comic, you know, lives on to this day as an internet culture reference and became it evolved to where it became a game to try to hide a reference to this comic in different types of symbols, I guess, or like you try to hide it in places, and people be like, "Is that lost? Is
I
that lost
just
there?"
I just was reading something the other day and it all of a sudden at the end there was a word I was like, "Where is this going?" And then there was a word bubble at the end that said, "Is this lost?" And I was like, "Oh, God, you got me." Like,
Like
this
they
is still
got them.
happening? I thought we were past this. Like, don't remind me of this
Yeah,
terrible thing.
there was a similar game called The Game, and if you had seen the game, you would just lose the game. That was
Right.
another. Yeah, that was another meme similar. And then, like, there's memes like, Wojak, which Wojak is still huge today. There's new Wojaks being made all the time. It became this template used for all different types of characters. Wild how strong Wojak has been,
Now that's had
actually.
the whole Wojak category has had a strong run. I mean, that's weirdly enduring.
I think, I mean, it's difficult to quantify this sort of thing, but I'd say maybe even one of the most adaptable, long-lived, and just in terms of impact and virality, um, yeah, one of the longest running, most impactful of all time.
Do you so
Um,
on Know Your Meme, I know there are tables, there are timelines. If I go to look at a particular meme, there will be, something that's like a timeline that'll show me the spike in interest, and maybe that's search volume or shares or
yeah,
something,
it's
but
a search volume graph that we have in there. Yeah.
yeah, do you think about impact as something new is emerging, or do you think of it contextually over, you know, relative to something else, or do you just think about what it is for today in this current environment? Do you have like a Hall of Fame in your mind, or do you have a reference point where you say like, oh well, that's not quite as big as Loss, but it is quite as big as this or
Yeah. I mean, when we're choosing to do stuff, when we're choosing to cover stuff, we do try to cover the most impactful things first,
yeah.
and we use and on a day-to-day basis, we're typically making that judgment call based on the volume that we're seeing across different social media platforms.
Hmm.
We do, and we discuss it, often amongst ourselves about whether or not we personally think it's going to be a long-lived phenomenon or a short-lived phenomenon. And yeah, I mean, typically, I think things that are centered around it's difficult to always predict that,
Of
right? That's
course.
always kind of a difficult thing to do. But I think things that are centered around more flash in the pan events, or like current events, or you know things that explode very very quickly and very large and on a large scale,
Hmm.
tend to be things that we might predict would be more short lived. And then things that, like, have had taken some time to simmer a bit and really, permeate throughout the culture and everything become I would predict that they last longer. Um, but yeah, it's a difficult thing to quantify. But there are patterns that you can see there. And I think, just some of the more obvious ones are what, like I mentioned, like ones that explode really quickly, use up the oxygen immediately, are ones that I would predict would die faster.
It's do you when when the Know Your Meme started, it's kinda like, "Okay, we're gonna try to catalog these. There's interest in it. We're gonna probably there's a business reason. Let's try to capture these. We'll be the site that people land on as they're searching," and that makes sense. Now, you come with a background in anthropology. You have an interest in journalism, in documentation of these for cultural reasons. How do you balance the responsibility of this one has to be documented? You only have so many resources. Your Know Your Meme is extremely comprehensive, but it can't capture everything, I think. So how do you prioritize in a given day when the volume? I'm just looking at my phone and watching like TikTok notifications, like
Yeah.
just drip down my screen, and one replaces the other. Each of those is a potential lead for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we generally base off demand and how impactful we think it is. What do we think most people are going to be interested in finding out about? Like number one, Know Your Meme is a reference site that the purpose we serve is to be the historical record of internet culture and provide people with a place to learn about the memes that they're interested in.
Yeah.
So we would try to prioritize things that we think the most people are curious about, and try to serve as many people as possible with that. Um, However, my dream for Know Your Meme, and we've been building towards that. I think, over the 12 and a half years that I've been here, we've made a lot of progress towards this, actually quite a bit, is expanding the coverage more and more to cover as much of internet culture as we can, to be the most comprehensive internet culture encyclopedia and database in the world. And yeah, I mean, I I want Know Your Meme to cover, even the small memes. Like I want those to be covered on there as much as possible. Even users can submit entries to Know Your Meme. And, our user base is great about covering, more niche memes from, smaller communities or fandoms.
Mhm.
And I think that's a super important part of the site and of the database. And I hope that we are, in the future, I hope that we can cover as much as possible, all of them,
Yeah.
all the major communities online.
How do you think about, today I've referenced TikTok a couple times. We talked about YouTube and how things exploded when there was social sharing, and then YouTube, and now TikTok. The how memes evolve every time there's a new powerful platform
Yeah,
introduced. The shape of a TikTok meme has some similarities to YouTube videos, but also has a lot of differences to it because of the tools baked into TikTok.
for sure.
How do you think
Yeah.
about how do you think about that evolution, and what kind of potential that creates?
Yeah. I mean, TikTok has been just an absolute, you know, just monster in terms of growth. It's just
Yeah,
like blew up, almost seemingly out of nowhere and changed the meme landscape, um, you know, incredibly. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's a number of things to look at there, and I've thought about it quite a bit. Um, One of the notable things about TikTok too that I think might not be always I don't see too often people recognize is just how TikTok is unique in that there are a lot of memes that stay siloed on TikTok. They don't spread elsewhere. There's some that do. There's a lot of like, you'll see TikToks reposted elsewhere, go viral on Twitter, go viral on Instagram Reels. That's they're reposted there, YouTube Shorts or what have
yep,
you. But the participation in them sometimes are limited to TikTok, and it's because of the technology. So, like, using the audio file on that has that whole community built around it on TikTok, where people can tap in and see all the other TikToks made by the audio, that's
yeah,
limited to be on TikTok. There's the filters that are required, to participate in certain trends that only exist on TikTok. Um, there's and the community of people themselves. So it's got a number of things that have made it interesting in that regard. I think but one of the most and the filters and the sound specifically, I think, are really really interesting in how they've kind of changed the landscape of viral video memes. Um, and yeah, we've seen a number of times that like a certain filter, like recently there was an AI art filter on TikTok that went really really viral. um, there's been a number of, of songs that like TikTok can make a song a Billboard top 10 hit now. If it hits on TikTok, like an unknown artist, it can become a megastar
Yeah.
overnight. Um, so it's just become incredibly powerful. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think, we don't see that as much on the other platforms as well. Like, there's a lot of memes on YouTube that spread elsewhere. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like they don't often stay siloed on YouTube a lot of the time because they can easily kind of hop off and go to other platforms. Same thing with Insta and everything. They're part of a larger social media ecosystem to where TikTok has its own thing going on sometimes. And we kind of see this on our we have a TikTok account. When there's some other things that are notable about that too that we've learned. So, we have social media presences across all platforms,
Sure.
right? And it's a significant one, but on TikTok, our growth there has just dwarfed everywhere else. Like we're at like 1.85 million followers on TikTok. We grew a lot of those over just the last year, and it's harder to do that anywhere else. Like, a lot of the other platforms don't seem to give you a chance
Yeah.
as much. And you can be a nobody, and if you make videos that are able to get the watch time that the algorithm likes, or
Yeah.
amongst a certain number of people, they'll put you in front of people. They'll put you in front of eyeballs. And there seems to also be a demand for on TikTok that we found when we explain internet phenomenon. A lot of the time TikTokers like us to explain the memes that are just big on TikTok, you know? Those do really well for
A
us.
lot of them take some explaining.
What's that?
A lot of those memes take some explaining to understand, like, where the
Yeah.
hell did this thing come from? What's that sound? What's the
Yeah.
source of this sound? I hear it sped up. I don't know what the original, like, who started using it? You do wanna know that.
Yeah. And I think, this is also kind of speculation on my part, but I think that, like, a lot of the Zoomers on TikTok aren't using the web much, and we have this stuff covered in encyclopedia on the web,
Yeah.
but we have to meet them where they're at because I think they prefer to just look up things on TikTok rather than look up things on in a web browser.
And so TikTok becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. They start there to find information out, which pulls them in and keeps them there because people are creating content to answer their questions.
Right. And I think, there's even been a number of, like, articles I've seen come out that they, like, younger people are using TikTok as their search engine.
Yeah,
They're
I've been
not
reading that
using
as well.
Google as much. They're using TikToks. But it's almost like in certain industries, if you're not on TikTok, what are you
You're
doing?
invisible, yeah.
What but yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've read similar articles about use of TikTok, use of Reddit over Google, where you want to get to a real
Oh, yeah.
person that may know versus you know content
That's a
marketing.
great point. That's a great point as well about Reddit. Phenomenal point. Adding whenever almost any query that you do on Google and adding Reddit to the end of it
Still,
will get you better information
uh,
and, getting all pages that, gamed SEO for affiliate marketing or whatever.
100%. You got to
Uh,
scroll to page 7 before you get to anything that's like, oh, a real person was involved in writing this,
ex-
not trying to sell me
exactly.
a drug or something.
Totally. Yeah, Reddit. I do that. Like, I put Reddit at the end of a lot of Google search queries these days.
But I still do. That's funny because I do the same thing. I go to Google to search Reddit because I love Reddit's internal search.
Yeah.
What's next? You're cataloging on a daily basis. TikTok is today. If you had to guess, I mean, you're not going to name an imaginary platform, but seeing the way TikTok allows for recombinating and um, kind of instantaneous sharing,
Yeah.
how does this evolve in your mind based on the history you've got?
I think there's okay. So one of the biggest places I think one of the biggest emerging technologies that's going to have an enormous effect on internet culture and just human culture in general, I think it's going to be VR stuff. And I think a lot of people roll their eyes when I say this because or metaverse gets tossed around like a buzzword, doesn't even mean anything anymore. And I roll my eyes equally whenever I hear a lot of stuff going on with Web3 and the word metaverse and all those kind of technologies, because I think there is a lot of, for lack of a better word, crap in those sectors. But I'll tell you this. So, um, I'll give a specific. VR chat is this platform that you can access through. You can enter virtual worlds. You can either just do it on your desktop too, without even entering VR.
Yeah,
Um, but it's, in my opinion, it reminds me of the early World Wide Web in a way. So the way it works is, um, it's this platform that, you can upload worlds yourself that you've created in Unity, which is this, this framework that you can use to create, like, you can put 3D models in
hmm,
and build your own world, build your own avatars as well, and upload to it, and then socialize in these worlds with other people and avatars that have been constructed, and they can be anything. Like, you can be an inanimate object. I had one avatar in VR chat that I found that it was an animated fractal cube that would go, like, morph and go into itself and do all these psychedelic colors and
yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah.
You just fly around as a psychedelic fractal cube if you want to. Um, and Yeah, like, I feel like this kind of space is gonna have its own memes. There've already been memes that have come out of the R chat,
Sure.
actually. One of the biggest memes of, in the past few years, actually, that we had on the site was Uganda Knuckles, that came from the R chat, was one of our biggest hits on Know Your Meme, actually, in terms of traffic, of all time. That came from VR chat. It was basically, and it was based off avatars. It was based off people getting the avatars of this, weird looking version of the character Knuckles from the Sonic and the Hedgehog franchise. Um, yeah, I think that this is going to be a hugely impactful space,
And is
and
it just is that primarily because it's giving people new tools with which they can remix and
yeah,
come up with new ideas and then keep building on them, and it's in a format we haven't seen before?
yeah, I think it's going to be stuff like worlds themselves
Yeah.
are the kind of a mimetic thing. We'll probably see trends among certain about types of worlds and the things that are included in them. Like, I'd say, like, one meme in VR chat as example of this is mirrors in VR chat. Every world in VR chat has a mirror, it seems like, and it's because people congregate in front of them to look at themselves and look at their avatars, like, while they're in
Ah,
groups. And I think it also helps them when they want to, like, do weird interactions, like cuddle virtually, which is odd, but it's done. I think we'll see things in meme in terms of, like, the avatars that are created, certain themes and things that will be include the avatars, the
yeah.
things that the avatars can do. So the avatar isn't just an avatar. You can also make the avatar do things like animations, like, have it like open your hand and a flower pops out of your, you can do all kinds of stuff. I think that will inspire creativity and memes and trends. And I think, yeah, just like in terms of just culture itself, it'll be, once people are spending more time in virtual reality, which I'm not saying I think is a great thing, by the way, just to get me, I just think it's going to be hugely impactful.
I think there'll
I
be
think
positives and negatives like anything else. I mean, the same thing is true
exactly,
of TikTok, same thing is true of Twitter and YouTube.
absolutely.
So, well, Don, thank you so much for making time. Besides on Know Your Meme, where can people find you online?
One of the best places to find me is on Twitter. I'm Don Cald on Twitter, DONCALD. So yeah, that's the best place.
Awesome. I really appreciate you joining and talking through this. We got a little bit of a history lesson, but also got to look at where the hell these some of these memes come from.
Thanks for having me, Adam. It was an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, man. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
If you have an idea, a question, or you want to push back on something you hear in the episode, go to that'snotaninsight.com and leave a message or voicemail for me. The best and most interesting messages will be added to future episodes. The Strategy Inside Everything is produced by me, Adam Pierno. If you like what you've heard, leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Actually, I have no idea if that helps or if it's ever done anybody any good. If you really want to help the show and you liked what you heard, share it with someone else who you think will get something out of it. That's the best way to help the show and keep the conversation growing. New music for The Strategy Inside Everything is by Luke Halaisna. You can learn more at halaisna.com. If you like what you're listening to, you can also go to Luke's Patreon and make a donation. It's at patreon.com/Halaisna. Find links to both in the show notes. If you want to learn more about your host, Adam Pierno, you can find it on adampierno.com. Learn about my books, speaking, and consulting practice. Thanks so much for listening.